Okay, Kengo Kuma was born in 1954. He completed his master's degree at the University of Tokyo in 1979. He established Kengo Kuma and Associates in 1990. He taught at Keio University as professor, and in 2009 he was installed as professor at the Graduate School of Architecture, the University of Tokyo. Kuma was awarded with Architectural Institute of Japan Annual Award in 1997 for the North Stage in the Forest, and Mainichi Art Award in 2010 for Nesu Museum. Recent works include Sanctuary Museum of Art, Asakusa Culture Tourist Information Center, Nagaoka City Hall Outer, Kabushika Besançon Art Center, and Cité de la Musique. Frac Marseille, V&A Dundee, and so on. Kengo Kuma and Associates are also working on the new National Stadium, Japan, along with Taisei Corporation and Asusa Seikei. He also written numerous books, and most of the titles have been translated into Chinese and Korean. His major writings, Anti-Objects, Natural Architecture, Small Architecture, have been published in English from AA Publications, the book department of Architectural Association School. So that's my introduction, and from now on, please, Kuma-san, you can start your conference.
Thank you very much for inviting me to San Sebastian. I have some connection with Basque. I studied in Jesuit high school 6 years in Japan. In Japan, we have the 6 Jesuit high school. I studied the one in Kamakura, and as we had many father from Europe, and the 2 from Spain. One as a father from Spain is Ledesma. He came from Madrid, and he taught me the football. And so he's very good football players, and he taught me football. And actually, he was as a professional, the judge of football at the Football Association. And second teachers from Spain, he's Oregi. It's a typical Basque name, Oregi. And he taught me biology, and his Japanese was perfect. It is 100% perfect. And he mentioned about the similarity of Japanese language and Basque language. The grammar is very similar, he said. The order of the words and also the pronunciation is similar, he said. And maybe his perfect Japanese came from the similarity of Basque language and Japanese language. And maybe both places, people were living with nature for a long time. Wood, timber was important in Japan for many years. And before the 20th century, actually before Second World War, so most of Japanese buildings were made by wood, the timber. People were living with forest. And the forest and the town were very close, and the natural circulation was happening between forest and the town. As the people are using wood, as the people are living with wood, and then the people tried to keep forest as beautiful as possible, as natural as possible. But in 20th century, as a American civilization, American culture came to Japan, and the wooden culture suddenly disappeared in Japan. And it's very sad. Most of the buildings in Tokyo now are made by concrete, and totally we lost the beauty of wooden intimate buildings. And today, I want to show some of the examples we are working with wood. And first project is Hiroshima Museum. And Hiroshima is the name of the artist in 19th century. This museum is for his art. And maybe some of you know Hiroshima because he's the best ukiyo-e painter in the 19th century. And he gives the big influence on Western painting. As you know, the Impressionism, those painters, Vincent van Gogh, the Cézanne, those guys learned many things from Hiroshima. And actually, the Vincent van Gogh, he wrote about Hiroshima. So he said, I have three mentors, three masters. The one is Rembrandt, maybe both are Dutch. The second is Cézanne. Gogh respected Cézanne very much, the same generation, but Cézanne was really great artist, so he thought. And third mentor of Van Gogh was Hiroshima. He learned many things from Hiroshima. And as for generation, the generation of Hiroshima was just before Vincent van Gogh. Not so different, but they learned, they influenced each. Their influence was very close. And also another artist very much influenced by Hiroshima was American architect, Frank Lloyd Wright. Maybe you know that. He's a great architect. And Frank Lloyd Wright wrote, without two Japanese artists, I could not establish my aesthetics. And one Japanese is Hiroshige, and another Japanese is Tenshin Okakura. And you know Tenshin Okakura, he wrote the book as about tea ceremony. The title was Book of Tea, published in America 1906. And it was the first book which explained the tea ceremony in English. And then his influence was huge in America and also in Europe. And Frank Lloyd Wright learned about the concept of void from Hiroshige and Tenshin Okakura. But anyways, I want to show the Hiroshige Museum. In that building, I try to use wood as possible as can, and also I want to show the transparency is made by wooden structure. The material of roof is also wood, and the wall also wood. And the most important idea for the museum is the void. I want to show something. This is a void as I cut in the building. So this void, this is a void. This is a void I cut on the building. The goal of the void is to create connection between the town and forest. This town is called Bato Town, and the location of the town is very, very, very typical in Japan. And typical means just beside forest. The forest is here, and town is here. The town is sitting just beside the forest, sitting on the edge of forest. This is a very typical the location for the town. Why is edge? Not in the forest, not far from the forest, because the people, the life, the totally depended on forest, because they are using the material of the forest, and they are using the wood for cooking and for making hot water for shower. So the energy they could get was from forest. And then forest was a kind of infrastructure of the time. Now we have gas company, electric companies, the infrastructure came from the town, but before 19th century, no infrastructure at all, no gas company at all, no electric company at all. The energy came from the forest. Material came from the forest, and even for agriculture, people was using the fertilizer from the forest. And then without forest, they couldn't do anything. And the life and forest was always one thing. But in 20th century, people totally forgot the importance of forest. And then they think everything came from big city. In Japan, we have Tokyo, and Tokyo became the real center of the country, and they'd forgotten the forest. And the forest and the life was separated in 20th century. It's very pity for us, because people forgotten the forest, abandoned the forest. And the abandoned the forest was very bad for forest, because forest needed the maintenance, needed the circulation. And but in 20th century, the natural linkage was destroyed. The goal of this building is to show the importance of the forest. But at the beginning of the project, it was different. The mayor of the town made this big parking, and he said the building should face the parking. And he said the forest side should be the back side of the building. But I said it is a typical American solution. So facing the parking is a stupid idea, because parking is not beautiful. And I said, entrance should face the mountain and should face the shrine. Why shrine? Because always at the edge of forest, we built shrine. Because shrine is sending the strong message to the people. The people thought in the forest the God was living, and then the shrine was a symbol of God in the forest, and then people respect the forest, and people tried to keep the forest forever. and the shrine was a symbol of that kind of respect. But unfortunately, this shrine was also abandoned in 20th century. The wooden building of the shrine already became the ruin. But my idea was to have the hall directing the shrine, and people should remember the importance of the shrine. And finally, the mayor agreed with my idea, and we can have the entrance facing the mountain, facing the shrine. This is the entrance facing mountain and facing shrine. And actually, that kind of mountain, so we named it Chateau Yama. The Chateau means village, and Yama means mountain. And Chateau Yama means the village mountain, the mountain with the town. But as in 20th century, the people have forgotten Chateau Yama totally, but recently, some people, some journalists, began to say that we should go back to Chateau Yama, and some economist was saying about Chateau Yama economy. The meaning of Chateau Yama economy is economy deeply connected with the mountain, Chateau Yama, the village mountain. And in 20th century, the economy was connected with a big company in the big city. But we should go back to the microeconomy, the small economy, which is connected with each places, each mountain, each forest. I should go back to the building. This is the detail of roof and wall. This is a big cantilevers. The cantilever is very important for our building because it creates shadow and saving energy and creating peaceful space beneath the roof. And this is a detail. And we have the 2 layers of wooden lattice. And this is interior. Also for interior, we did use local material as possible as can. The stone from the quarry of the mountain, and rice paper from the craftsman of the village, and of course wood from the forest behind. And for interior, the most important concept is superjuxtaposition of layers. The screen is not solid. It is a typical method in traditional Japanese buildings. We hated the thick wall. We didn't have thick wall. So every wall is so thin and sometimes movable, flexible, and transparent. And the superjuxtaposition of those light layers was creating the flexibility of life. But in 20th century, the American concrete building came to Japan that destroyed the transparency of the space. And the furniture as well. We designed those furnitures to create superjuxtaposition of layers. And in China, we propose the bamboo for the building. It's close to this unique heritage. It's a Great Wall. It's the longest structure on the earth, and it's very, very beautiful. It's close, just 300 meters from the Great Wall. And our idea is to use topography the same as Great Wall. The Great Wall, the people are preserving the topography, not cut the topography. It is an important method of Great Wall. And same as Great Wall, we didn't cut the topography of the place. Preserve the topography like that. And then we could preserve the green on the land. So it's very different from 20th century's typical method. In 20th century, to make the flat land was first step. The building, the box were built on the flat land. So they didn't preserve the topography, they didn't preserve the green on the topography, landscape. But instead, so we could keep the greenery, and the building was following the topography, the same as Great Wall. And material-wise, so we decided to use bamboo, because bamboo is the most popular wood in China. And compared with Japan, the forest of China is very much disappeared. In Japan, because of the topography, 70% of land was kept as forest. Maybe it is one of the highest percentage in the world, but China is much less. And I try to use local material as possible as can. So in that case, I use bamboo in China. And also bamboo reflect the climate and soil of the place. Is same as wine. It's very unique. Japanese bamboo and Chinese bamboo are very different. Japanese bamboo is very straight, and also the diameter, the bottom and top, is not different. But Chinese bamboo is very much bended, and as a young architect, as he stayed in the construction site, he was very upset to see the construction. He said, the Chinese construction was not precise at all. We should make every bamboo straight. But I said, no, China, the bending bamboo came from China. It is very local. So we should respect that kind of bending bamboo from China. So each places, so we should respect each place, the wood from the forest. And it's the entrance of the building. This is a courtyard. And this space is a space for tea ceremony. And tea ceremony was very important in Asian culture. In Japan and in China, the people often did tea ceremony for communication and for some spiritual experience. The drinking tea in a special way is very special experience. But recently, some scholars mentioned about the influence from Europe on tea ceremony. This is very unique opinion. And in 16th century, the Jesuit priests came to Japan as Ignacio Loyola and Francisco Xavier. They came from this district to Japan, and they taught as a way they taught us the ceremony of Mass. And as how to give the wine, the blood of Christ, to in the church, is as you know, it's a special procedure. And the way of tea, drinking tea in Japan, is very similar to drinking red wine from the priest. And as the opinion of the scholar is the Jesuit priest taught Japanese how to drink sacred liquid. I think it's very, very unique opinion, but I don't know if it's true or not, but I can get many hint of architecture from his opinion. But his next project is Chidori Pavilion. We designed this pavilion in Italy. So we got a hint of this pavilion from this toy, wooden toy. The name of the toy is Chidori. The Chidori is I keep yours. Sorry. Chidori is as a unique joint was like that. The three joinery, different joinery, were fixed like that, and twist and finish. It's easy. and then without any nail and without any metal, the people fix those sticks to create the pavilion. And we Japanese didn't use metal, because in the rainy weather, the steel was very weak. It will deteriorate very fast, and people didn't trust the steel. And then we could produce metal, steel, but we didn't use metal for the building. And this is the pavilion we built in Italy. And no metal, no glue at all. And we brought that idea to the permanent building in Japan. So after coming back from Italy, we decided to use the same technique for permanent building. In the university, in Tokyo University, we worked with the engineer to test this structural system. And this is the dimension. Each grid have 50 centimeters between joint, and the one sticks has a section of 6 centimeters, 6 by 6 centimeters. This is a section of the building. It's a 10 meters high building with those tiny sticks. No column and no wall. Like that. And the edge of the wood, we often painted white. Originally, we did use a powder from crumb, as a seashell, but now to get a powder from seashell is very, very difficult. Now, instead, we did use a special paint to protect edge of wood from rain. And this is interior. And this is the ceiling. And the use of the building is small museum. And so we do use each grid for the showcase. And normally, the building and the furniture, building and showcase are separated, but instead, we try to integrate furniture and building. The only one element, these tiny sticks, that can produce every space, can produce everything. And we call it a cell system. The cell of the human body that can create anything, the same as human cell, so we can use the sticks for the unit of every element of the building. This is the facade of the building, entrance of the building. And so for the bridge, we also try to use wood. In Japan, before 19th century, some of the bridges were made by wood. But now the people don't use wood for that kind of big structure, but instead we try to use local wood. And the wooden bridge is often covered by roof. It's for protection. As we also cover the wooden bridge by roof, and we do use the space inside for exhibition space. This is a space for a small apartment. The people are using the space in the bridge for a small apartment as well. And for the same village, we design the hotel. The name is Marché. This is not my building. Looks like that this is not my building. It's a small tea house, small cafe before 19th century. The thatch roof was very, very popular before 19th century because it was the easiest way to make roof. But in 20th century, people forgotten that method. But the village people still love that kind of thatch roof. We propose to use thatch for the material for facade. This is the facade. This is the detail of the facade. But to find the craftsman who can make these was very, very difficult. And finally, I found the old craftsman. He was more than 70 years old. I asked him to go back to job, and we could work with him, luckily. But even in the countryside, even in that kind of small village, to find the craftsman was very, very difficult. So this is the lobby space of the hotel, and the people are using that space as small vegetable market. And then the name of the hotel is Marché Yosuhara. And the Starbucks is a different type of client for me. As a story started from the location. This is the temple is very, very old. It's a 10th century building. And you see the gate of the temple and approach to the temple is a very typical Japanese as a consequence to the temple. And the Starbucks location is here, and they asked me to design the unique space Starbucks which will match the temple. And my idea is to use the sticks to support the building. It's not decoration, it's structural element to support the building. And then this is the interior of the Starbucks. The same dimension, 6 centimeters by 6 centimeters. But the construction is more difficult than the previous project because this is not perpendicular, so this has a different angle, and the 4 sticks meet at one point. I want to create a kind of atmosphere of the forest. And after Starbucks, we tried another forest in Tokyo. The Sunny Hills is the name of the pineapple cake company from Taiwan. I met the client. He's a very unique guy. So he came from south of Taiwan, and south of Taiwan was basically very poor, and he wanted to activate the pineapple industry in south of Taiwan. And then he started a pineapple cake company, special pineapple cake company. And the idea is very ecological, it's very sustainable, and then he wanted to work with us in the center of Tokyo. And my idea is to use the special joint system of Starbucks. But Starbucks is 1-story building, and this is a 3-story building, more complicated. And again, we didn't have column. So we only used those 6 centimeter sticks for the support of the building, for the main structure of the building. This is the interior of the building, the stairs, the rooftop. And this diagram shows the construction method. Basically, we have the 3 layers, 1 layer, 2 layers, and 3 layers. And 2 layers, double layers is slidable, but we add the 1 extra layers, so we can fix 3 layers. And then the 3 layers can support the building. And as a very new project in the Yasuhara village is a library. As I also want to create the forest. This element is supporting the roof of the building. And also this is a structural element. And in the center of Tokyo, again, we try to use timber for the higher building. As in front of the temple, the old temple is a beautiful temple. That kind of temple sometimes has this kind of gallery, the small shops and restaurants. And in front of the main gate, we proposed to design that building. It's a 40-meter high building, and 7 stories building, but most of the material was wood. It's a section. And in Japan, before 19th century, just as I mentioned, most of the building was 1-story or 2-story wooden building. And then the people can feel the land. But now we already separated from the ground, separated from the earth. But for this building, so we try to use the same section for each floor. One-story wooden building with a roof and terrace. This is a rendering. This is a realization of the building. The facade, we did use wood, timber. But unfortunately, the main structure was steel. It was built 7 years ago, and 7 years ago we couldn't use wood timber for the main structure of the building. But last year in Japan, the building code has changed, and we could use CLT structure for the main of the building. But 7 years ago we couldn't. And then we did use wood for facade and for interior, but main structure not. Now we are working with CLT for some project, and so now we can use wood for the main structure of the building. It's a rooftop terrace, the facade. And the next building, this is the highest tower in Tokyo, in Japan, as 600 meters high, made by steel. But I think our building, 40 meters, is more important than the 600 meters building. And a city hall, for that kind of public project, we also try to use wood. The basic idea for this city hall is this space. As a beginning of the project, the mayor of the city has asked us to design the plaza with the city hall. His idea is plaza is very important for city hall. And I think I totally agreed with his idea. Public plaza is important for the community. But instead of plaza, we propose the doma for the city hall. The do means earth. The ma means space. Earth space was like that. In the farmer's house, always people had that kind of doma space. It's for working, and maybe in some the European house, we can find that kind of idea. It's for working and cooking and eating. It is between exterior and interior, and this is very a comfortable space and very flexible space. And here. We had a kitchen. Here we had a working space, and the tatami space, the raised floors, was here. But most of the daily life happened in doma space. And doma, has no pavement. The material was rammed earth. It's almost earth, and very warm and very wet. It's very humid, but people like that kind of softness. And we propose the same idea for the city hall. Instead of pavement, instead of stones, we did use rammed earth for the floor. And material-wise, we try to use local material as possible as can. The wood from the area. The rule we set is every material should be closer than 15 kilometers from the site, not from far. The wood, okay, but wood from far was not the sustainable material. It should be closer to the site. And again, the rammed earth for the floors, that can change the atmosphere totally. And the people love to gather the space, Doma space, and after 4 years, the 5 million visitors came to the city hall. The size of the city was not big. It's a 280,000 population, but as 1 year, more than 1 million visitors came to the city hall. And solar photovoltaic panels on the roof. And as we combine those sustainable devices, but more than that, the materials are important. The space for NPO and the space for politicians, and the politicians as a gathering hall is often used for concert. The musician came here, and the local material again is this old lady producing rice paper from the trees, from local tree. It is very old method. And also after making the papers, again they put the paper in the snow. It is a very unique system. That process makes paper whiter than usual. And we have this white paper on the wall and rammed earth on the floor. And so this furniture we designed made by rice paper. As rice paper, so we did a special treatment on rice paper. The brown color came from persimmon. Persimmon, you know persimmons? Persimmon, name of wood. So it's creating the beautiful brown color. And also on that papers, we treated by the cognac potato. The cognac potato is a kind of potato, but it's very effective to protect rice paper. And in Second World War, actually, so we have the rice paper bomb. Have you heard of that? Rice paper bomb. It's made by rice paper. It's a balloon made by rice paper. It sounds a crazy idea because rice paper, but actually the rice paper balloon was protected by same method. The persimmon liquid and cognac powder's protection, and that balloon could fly to America, the over Pacific Ocean. And actually, more than 300 balloons reached America. And it was and there's also the unique story is the radar could not catch the image of balloon because this was made by rice papers. I love that kind of idea. It's very different from the engineering of the 20th century. It came from the old material. It came from the old craftsmanship. But that kind of wisdom could produce the very special products. And contemporary technology cannot reach that kind of sophisticated level. And this is one farmer. He is producing this special silk. Again, the dyeing process was by persimmon under this beautiful brown color. It's a special silk. This technique was invented in the 17th century in Japan. It looks very rough, but it's a silk because if silk was shining, so that kind of luxurious material was prohibited by law, as humbleness was important in that kind of period. Humbleness and poorness was important. And then, still, but they wanted to use silk. And the silk with very rough textures was invention in 17th century. And as we did use this technique, this fabric, for the counter of the city hall. This was made by that special silk. And this is a small cafe facing Pacific Ocean. The structure-wise, it is a kind of cantilever structure made by sticks. The longest sticks we did use is 10 meters. As a secret of this cantilever structures is carbon fiber. You know, carbon fiber is a contemporary technology. The carbon fiber is 7 times stronger than normal stainless wire, and very light, very transparent, and we did use the carbon fiber to suspend the edge of cantilever. Where is? Maybe if you have a good eye, you can find the white strings. I'm sorry, I will show this section of the building. This lines is showing the carbon fiber strings. Yes, you can find the white strings of carbon fiber here. And in China, as we designed this as a museum for arts university. The idea is one-story museum following the topography. Following the topography is making that unique section of the building. Again, we try to use local ceramic tiles for the roof, and it's a recycled material. And the ceramic roof tile in China is beautiful because it's handmade. In Japan, we don't have that kind of beautiful material because in Japan, the roof tile ceramic were made by big factory, and big factory could not make this kind of diversity, this kind of roughness. But in China, we could find that material. And we try to pick up the beauty of this material as possible as can for the roof and also for the screen. The screen of the building was also made by the same roof tile. It's a stainless wire that is used for as a hanging of the roof tile. And then, in that sense, it's a combination of contemporary technology and traditional material. The effect of screens is like that. It can control natural light and creating beautiful shadow in the building. So the floor is following the landscape. Maybe you know the Guggenheim Museum in New York is a sloping floors. But the Guggenheim Museum in New York is artificial slope. But here, the slope came from the topography of the place. also use local wood. And in Beijing, we also did a small renovation project. Beijing is a big, big city, and in the center of Beijing is an Emperor's Palace. It's a forbidden city, and Tiananmen Square is in front of the palace, and Chenmen district is in front of Tiananmen Square. And that Chenmen Square used to be like that. It's a kind of abandoned space. And then it's a kind of old courtyard houses, but as a few people was living there. And as many developers came to the government, and they showed the plan of skyscrapers. They wanted to destroy everything and make skyscraper. But some magazines, some newspapers, Europe, was against those skyscrapers. And finally, Chinese government decided to preserve the area. I think it's a very smart decision. And then they invited 4 architects to preserve the district. So I'm one of them. And it used to be like that. It becomes like that. And it's as a facade we designed for the old building. So we try to combine the old black brick with aluminum transparent screen. And it's a detail of aluminum transparent screen. And I love the interior. Because I thought the Chinese houses were made by brick, and brick masonry structures, we thought, because it's look like masonry building. But we destroyed the ceiling, new ceiling, and we found the beautiful wooden structures behind the ceiling, like that. It was used for the house. It's not a palace. It's not the temple, but the structures was made by timbers and very sophisticated structures and very beautiful. And I talked with a Chinese historian, and I found that most of the houses in Beijing had wooden structure behind brick wall. But now in China, it's difficult to find the carpenter, because most of the Chinese buildings were made by concrete and steel. And I found that finally, so we could find the very old guy, more than 70 years, and he was working as carpenters. And he was very kind to us. And he said, I learned the carpentership from Japanese masters before Second World War. As a technique, his technique was super good, and then I could work with him to refurbish this beautiful wooden building. And now we are using this space as my office in Beijing. And I love this space. I love this street very much, and then this is my office in Beijing. And in Europe, we also try to use local wood. It's a Besançon project in France. It's very close to Swiss, close to mountain. And we try to create, build as a new combination of old brick building. This is old brick building, and this part is new wooden structure. And in this case, we did use local larch for the building. So to combine the old building, preserve the old building with new wooden structure and new wooden facade. We did the landscape as well. this is a biotope. So we try to invite birds and insect, and this is a playing as a creek. And also, so we try to create this kind of in-between space. In Japan, we love in-between space. So we call it Engawa space. Engawa space is between exterior and interior. It is semi-covered space, but it is very comfortable. When I was a kid, my favorite space is always Engawa space. I was playing in Engawa space, and the same as this space. It's a semi-covered space, like that, combined with biotope, and the light is screened by that kind of wooden roof. And again, this is a whole to connect nature and city. The same as Hiroshima Museum. Hiroshima Museum, the mountain, Chateau Yama, the village mountain is behind, and the city and the village mountain was connected by the hall we designed, same as the Fundación project. And so we try to create a screen to control natural light. And this is a concert hall, is made by wood, the roof. So for the station, Saint-Denis Player Station in Paris, the Saint-Denis Player Station is close to football stadium, and the Saint-Germain-de-Paris, as you know, Saint-Germain-de-Paris is a very strong football team, is close to that station. And the 4 metros and 4 national railways meets at that station. But this area in Paris is not good area. There's many immigrants, and for security, it is very, very bad area. And when I visited the site first time, the people advised me not to go out from the car. It is a very dangerous area in Paris. And the many terrorists are living in that area. So maybe you remember the terrorism in Paris, those guys who are living in that area, Saint-Denis Player area. But our proposal is to bring nature in the station. And the station used to be very artificial box, but our station is open to public to provide the green space on the roof and also to use wood for interior. And to use wood for the station is not easy, especially for this kind of the dangerous area. To use wood is very risky. French railway company, the SNCF, asked me not to use wood. But I said, for that kind of park, the wood is very necessary. And we showed them the special method to treat wood, some kind of anti-graffiti treatment and inflammable treatment, that kind of treatment. Finally, they agreed to use wood for the station. So this is the first. The basement is a mix of stations and shopping centers and museum. And there's another new episode for the station is we have the new art director of the station, and he's a rap singer in France, very popular rap singer. His name is Stromae. Do you know Stromae? We and Stromae are working together to bring some videos on the wall and music to the station. This is a very unique combination. It's a facade of the station. And it is a project in Swiss. And our Spanish staff, Javier Vila, was in charge of that project. Today he's here. He came from Rioja, he was in charge of that project. It's wooden structures, but wooden columns was combined with as a steel plate. It shows the detail of wooden columns. But we sandwiched the wooden columns by steel plate, but it's still transparent. We cut the hole like that. We want to show the wood from outside. And it's showing the semi-covered space, and also we try to use the typical roof design for the Swiss chalet. This is the interior, so we try to show wood. As we thought, even for the university, technical university, because EPFL is a technical university in Swiss, Lausanne, so we don't need books anymore. The boxes behind the buildings, those boxes are typical 20th century campus building, but instead we propose a wooden building with roof and a wooden facade. And in America, we did design Japanese Garden Museum. SSR, we tried to combine wood and green roof and in the forest. And again, the covered space, semi-covered space, in-between space are very important for us. So if weather is good, it can be open totally. And beyond that, Victoria Albert Museum in Dundee, Scotland. So we got a hint from the cliff, sea cliff from that area. As always, we got a hint from nature of the place. It's a site plan, and this is a building. And we are talking about Bilbao for that project. The Scottish government and the city of Dundee try to learn something from Bilbao, lesson of Bilbao, and then they want try to invite the major museum from the other places, and then finally Victoria Albert Museum London decided to have the branch in Dundee. Before, the Dundee was quiet place, quiet city. In 19th century, Dundee was more active. It's a port for trade, but in 20th century, Dundee was very, very quiet, and they wanted to activate the city again by the museum. As the facade, Bilbao, the Flangeri did use metal, but instead we did use this special concrete, precast concrete, to have rough textures as sea cliff. As a building, location is very, very special. So we push the building into river. So the idea of the city is to reconnect city and river, to activate waterfront. So before, the waterfront was occupied by factory and warehouses. It's a typical situation in 20th century, but they wanted to demolish those factories and to have the reconnection again between nature and artifact. I like that idea very much, and so we try to use this cave, this hole. So again, it is a hole to nature. It's a whole to connect again between nature and city. As for interior, we try to use wood as possible as can. It's very different from normal museum. Normal museum prefer white cube, the white wall, abstraction, and simpleness, but instead we try to create warmness and intimacy by using local oak. And the living room for the city is our idea. And they like that idea very much. And not just using wood, to use wood in a special way to create, to show the intimacy of the space. The dimension is very important, and its roughness is important. Like this kind of roughness and the randomness and the warmness. And in Sydney, Australia, we also propose to use wood for the community building. It's a mix of market and kindergartens and restaurant and library. It's a very unique combination for the community. And as we propose to use wood. And this is very close to Chinatown, and then the new nickname for the building is a ramen building. You know ramen, it's a Japanese pasta, Chinese pasta. It's like that, and then I love that nickname, ramen building. And instead of the pasta, we did use wood, and the detail was like that. It's almost completed. And the National Stadium in Japan for Tokyo Olympic 2020 is almost finishing. So we are proposing the wooden building. As the main structure is steel, but the roof of the structure is a composite, wood and steel, and the facade of the building is wood. And as we got a hint from this old building. This is the oldest wooden building in the world. It was built 7th century and still surviving. In the competition interview of the stadium, I showed this wooden building because as a judge of the competitions, they were very worried about the wood, timber. How is the maintenance? How is the life of wood? How is the cost of maintenance? And there are many, many questions about timbers. And I showed this image to them. It's a 7th century building. Don't worry, it's already 1,400 years past after the building. Because of section of the building. This is a 5-story towers, has 5 roofs to protect facade and soffit. In Asia, this kind of section was very popular. It is good for timbers. And also the small units of wood was replaceable. If one part was damaged, they can replace wood. And surprisingly, I found a very unique detail for this building. You see this stakes is a rafter. The rafter is much longer than needed. That means if the edge of that the unit deteriorated, rotten, people push the stakes from inside. And then step by step, they cut the edge, they push out the sticks. It's a very, very smart system. And if finally the length was not getting short, they replace the wood. And then the good thing for timber structures is replaceable system. It's not like concrete. So concrete is one solid volume. The partially replacement is very difficult for concrete. But instead, the wooden structures, so each unit, each part is replaceable. And this is a secret of this 7th century building. As this shrine is very close to stadium, we also found the unique system. And there is a roof structure of the building as a composite of steel and wood. And it shows a natural ventilation system of wood. Started next year, July. It is a hottest season in Tokyo. Sometimes the temperature is going over 40 degrees, and then so we need to have a special ventilation system. And also recycled material is used for the floor. And this is a skywalk, is open to public. And the stadium is not used for sports only. It's for the community, and the people can use this walkway every day of the year. And also we designed the creek besides the stadium. And going back to small thing, it's the smallest project we did. It's a wood block. We worked with musician Ryuichi Sakamoto, and we know each other for a long time. And he is organized the NPO named More Trees. He also worrying about the situation of Japanese forest. And he asked me to design the new wooden block. The new wooden block, the normal wooden block is brick, like brick. It's a kind of masonry wooden brick. But our idea is to create lightness, transparency, and combine with specialist Japanese technique. You see the joint of wood. It is a weak point of this kind of triangular structure. And here, for this weak point, we add very small wooden piece to strengthen the corner of the joint. This is a very flexible system, and it shows the diversity of shape. And also we can make a special Christmas tree by using that element. And finally, I want to show the mid-sized project. It's a wooden trailer house. The normal trailer house was a product of 20th century's America. It's a combination of steel and aluminum, but instead we want to use in the wooden box. This is an openable table and counters. This is when it was closed. It was open like that. Interior. The size-wise is small enough. 2.4 meters by 6 meters. It's very small, but interior was very comfortable. It's very different from American trailer house. And we are carrying in the street of Tokyo, and we found the good spot to open the restaurants by this trailer house. This is my own project. I opened the restaurant by myself by this trailer house. This is the counters. Even in that small space, the wood can create comfortableness, and the 12 people can sit in the wooden box. And the paella, is here. And it's restaurants for 1 year. We already closed the restaurant, but still people are talking about the memory of that special restaurant. The comfortableness came from wood, and the peacefulness came from wood, I think. And so we can change the city by using wood. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kuma-san. Sorry. Okay, we can take some minutes if somebody have any question for Mr. Kuma. We can help you if you need with the language. Galderarik baldin badakazue, si tenéis alguna pregunta, aprovechando que tenemos aquí al señor Kuma. Nadie se atreve. Okay, pues,
good afternoon, Kuma-san. I have a question about the sustainability of the wood or structured wood that you use, because you have it a lot, but I think wood is a resource that it really, I don't know how to say it, is expensive, if we can say so, because for a tree to be converted in wood, I think it has to take some time, and I don't know how can it be sustainable, if you can explain it.
Yes, this is very good questions about sustainability. As a forest, as a condition of the forest needs as a regular cycle, and as we are talking with as a specialist of forest, and then said as a perfect condition of the forest is as a cycle of 60 years. As a plants wood and grow 60 years and cut and plant, it's a perfect cycle. Because as a wood, as over 60 years, the volume of absorbing CO2 is decreasing. You understand? The wood can absorb the CO2, and it helps to reduce the CO2 in the air. It's good to avoid the global warming. And if we leave the wood a long time, more than 60 years, that system is getting weaker. And some big timber is necessary for using some big temple or something, but normal building, the 60 years the cycle is the best. And also, for flat, to maintain the wood in that kind of cycle is very helpful. The forest with good maintenance can absorb water, and it is very good to avoid the flood. And then the Chateau Yama is the Chateau Yama system, mountain as village mountain system in Japan, need that kind of cycle. And the life and the forest with good maintenance can go together. and abandoned forest is not sustainable. Okay?
Thank you. Any other question? Yes? Please wait.
So, thank you very much for coming. So, the feeling I have always in this kind of speeches is like when you talk about your project and you talk about, yes, somebody told me to make a project and that's my idea and that's the final result. And it's like magic, it's like too easy. But in reality, it's not like that. And my question is, how is your working process? So how you start making models, or how much models do you make normally? When you start putting it into plans, or how is that process that gives you to the idea, to the final building?
Yeah, our process is very similar to laboratory in the university. And actually, we are working with, I'm teaching at the university as well, and also we are working with as professors as engineering, and as a professor of forestry, as we are working together. And each project, we try to do some experiment. For each project, we want to do some challenge. And then that kind of teamwork is very necessary for making that experiment. And also, after one project finished, we found some problem, so we found some new theme. And then we tried to solve those problems in the next project. And as you see, you can find some kind of a process of development. So after one project, so we can solve one problem, we can achieve some new things, and step by step, so we can do that. And then the continuous as a challenge is very necessary for this kind of experiment. Okay?
Okay, last question. Sorry, because we have limited time.
Thank you, Mr. Kuma. It has been a pleasure to hear you explaining your wonderful projects. I want to know, when you use wood as main structure in your buildings, for example, with these sticks from 6 centimeters by 6, do you protect them somehow against fire? I mean, do they have any treatment or something, or just the wood by itself? Do you protect the main structure of the building when it is made by wood with these sticks from 6 centimeters? Do you protect them against fire?
Yes. It depends on the scale of the building, and depends on the program of the building. And the building code requires fire protection. So it depends on the size and the program. And for small project, for example, the Starbucks project, the pineapple cake project, that kind of project, we don't need to protect those sticks. But a bigger project, for example, Besançon project in France, so we treated the wood by the special paint. And it depends on the project, we need the protection. But 6 centimeters can be used only for smaller project. Okay?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Kuma, for your conference and for your answers. And now we will pass to the master room, so Last applause for Mr. Kuma.